At IKEA, your dreams can come true. Well, maybe not the ones where you're being chased by a monster. We're talking about kitchen dreams. And there are IKEA products and solutions for all of them. Whether it's a whole new kitchen, a statement glassware set, or just new cutlery. If you got big dreams or small dreams in any size of budget, IKEA can help you bring them to life. Visit IKEA.us/dreamkitchen to learn more. Dream the possibility.
If you're chasing data down instead of seeing it in one place, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite. All your data in one place with built-in AI for real-time insights. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg, Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia, and essayist and commentator Eric Levine on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. Jesse is the Vice Chair of the New York State Republican Party and also the Chair of the Suffolk County Republican Party. With us is our co-host, noted attorney, commentator, essayist Eric Levine, and I am Judge Richard Weinberg. Well, gentlemen, the war continues. The Iran war continues. And so we have to do an update.
Well, it's been going on for 47 years.
Well,
we finally decided to fight back. Well, but the war's been going on. It's not like it just started.
It's finally that it lasted for 4 weeks. Someone did something.
We're finally back.
Let the record show that finally, after 47 years of inaction, the United States of America has decided not to let people pee on their shoes and to fight back against Islamist terrorism. Good for Donald Trump.
There you go.
Fair enough?
You can't kill Americans with impunity anymore.
That's right. So, let me just give you my sense of this as this war goes on. First of all, there's a natural impulse to want it over and want it over quickly. And I get that. Nobody wants to see this country at war. And nobody, unfortunately, wants to pay more for the gas at the pump or worry about inflation. I get that too. But let's put this in perspective. What you're talking about is an Islamist terrorist state dedicated to the proposition that they have a right to have hegemony over the entire world based on a combination of religious doctrine and political ideology, which brooks no tolerance for any diverse views, that if you do not agree with them, they have the right to literally exterminate you from this life because you do not believe what they believe, the way they want you to believe it. That's what the fight is about. It's an existential fight for human dignity, human rights, world civilization. That's what the fight was about. And that anybody is being a crybaby and saying, oh, the price of gasoline is going up or it's going on too long. Let's be clear. This was a fight that had to be fought, and thanks to Donald Trump, we're fighting it on our schedule, not when the ballistic missiles are flying over L.A. or taking out London or Paris, and those crybabies in England and France and Italy and Spain and the Netherlands and other NATO countries who don't understand that they're the first line after Israel and after the Gulf states are being taken out by these insane radical Islamists. If they don't understand that it was their world that was at stake as well as the United States, then they're fools. This fight, led by the United States of America and Israel, is a fight for everyone. This is a regime that has to be changed. Now, I was talking to General Jack Kane last night on Katz and Cosby, and I listened to his analysis, and he's talking about all the great military successes we've had, and I give the U.S. military due credit. The Navy is gone. 2/3 of the ballistic missiles are gone. 2/3 of the drones are gone. They've impaired the nuclear research and the enrichment program. That's gone. But they're still shooting off missiles. They're still shooting off drones. They're still threatening their Gulf Arab neighbors. They're still attacking Israel. They've rearmed and re-registered, and Israel has to fight the Hezbollah again in Lebanon. And the Houthis are attacking as well as shooting. And the Houthis are threatening to take out another sea lane that would connect us to the Red Sea. So this is serious business. So this war, frankly, is far from over. And if we don't win, the Iranian mullahs win. It's as clear to me, gentlemen, as that the United States has to win this fight. It's an existential fight. If we don't knock them out entirely, they will be back. Then you can say, well, they won't have this ability, that ability. They have the ability, as soon as you give them a couple of bucks, to spread the terrorist networks all around the world and to do terrorist attacks all around the world. So grow up, face reality. This is a war that has to be won. Anything less than a total victory against the scum of the earth, this danger to humanity, is a defeat for civilization. Eric.
Yeah, this war was inevitable. This war was going to be fought. The question was when and on what terms, and Richard, you pointed out correctly. We're fighting them on our terms, but to a certain degree we're fighting on their terms. Why are we in this position at all? You got the Obama folks, you got Anthony Blinken going around the planet saying, if only we could got the JCPOA back in, we've got this nuclear. What a lot of crap. We're in this position because of the JCPOA. It created
Obama's nuclear
deal. It created a legal path to a nuclear weapon. It created a legal path to a ballistic missile system to deliver it. It provided hundreds of billions of dollars to the states, the leading state sponsor of terrorism, to kill Americans around the globe and people on every continent, with the exception of maybe the Antarctica. But penguins beware. And to fund its military and its hegemonic goals in the Middle East. So in essence, when we're fighting this war, understand that the weapons that the Iranians are using to kill Americans, to close the Strait of Hormuz,
we paid for.
Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Anthony Blinken and John Kerry paid for it. They funded it. They are the funders of this war. We are fighting Iran. We're fighting against weapons that we paid for. So let's be clear. We're in this position. We're fighting this war now because of the JCPOA, the nuclear deal. Had we continued down this path and not fought this war now, then the Mullahs would be even more powerful. They are in a weakened state, and look at the havoc that they can wreak. Imagine how powerful Iran would be if we didn't fight this war now, when they were stronger, when they had the nuclear weapon, when they had hundreds or thousands more ballistic missiles. If their navy was that much stronger, if their economy was that much stronger. You complain about what the price of oil is now, with the price of the gas at the pump now. This is a pittance to what that would cost if these guys were allowed to go unchecked, like Barack Obama, John Kerry, Anthony Blinken, and Joe Biden were prepared to do. Hats off to Donald Trump for fighting this war. So what's the Iranian strategy? Iran has one strategy. The mullahs have one strategy: survive. They don't care how much damage they have to incur, how many people die. Their measure of success is, did the regime survive? That's all it is. For them, that's why they're prepared to take all this military pounding. So for them, that's why closing the Strait of Hormuz is so critical, or why the price of gas going up in the West is so critical. Because their view is, since we don't care about our people and all we have to do is survive at the end of the day, if we can inflict enough pain on the West, if we can compromise Donald Trump's party, the Republican Party, in their upcoming midterm elections, that's our leverage. Because eventually Trump will have to cave because he doesn't want to be wiped out in the elections. There'll be a lot of pressure from Europe. There'll be a lot of pressure from Americans, everyday Americans, because the price of oil and therefore the price of everything goes up. That is what they are counting on. So what's the response? The response should be we should win. We need to win this war, period, end of sentence. And winning means, let's be clear, winning means regime change. The mullahs must go, because if any of them survive in power, they're just going to start this process again. Because from their perspective, they're more than happy to die. Dying is a preference to them rather than being humiliated. And losing or surrendering is an utter humiliation. They will not accept it. Their purpose on this planet, from their perspective, is, as Richard pointed out, is to bring Sharia law around the world, to impose it on civilization. And they've made a great deal of, many great strides. They have a lot of success. Look what's going on in Europe. You know, we've made this point before. The United Arab Emirates won't allow its citizens to go study in England, in London, because they will come back, for fear they will come back radicalized. Europe is, hopefully one day they'll stand up and fight back. But the mullahs understand that if they can keep exporting Islamic radical terrorists around the world and get enough in,
and repopulate these countries with their people.
Right. If they can get enough of their people in London, in Paris, there's a reason why the elections in these countries go the way they do, or why policies, Keir Starmer and
Mitterrand?
Not Mitterrand.
Whatever his name is this week.
The French president. Macron, exactly. Macron, geez. There's a senior moment. And Macron, adopt the policies that they do is because they're worried about the growing Muslim population. And the decreasing Jewish population is irrelevant to them. So that's the strategy, is to just wait out the West and inflict as much harm as you can. Now, Donald Trump, bravo Donald Trump. He understands this. Now, a lot of people saying, is Trump looking for an off-ramp? He's saying he's talking to the mullahs, he's having negotiations. Well, I want to remind people. And Richard, you were one of the guys who was setting your hair on fire. You're saying, the people of Iran are in the streets. Why isn't Donald Trump doing something? And we're saying, it takes time to put these aircraft carrier strike forces in place in order to, if you're going to have a military operation, you have to do it effectively. You have to have the military assets in the region.
So is my hair no longer on fire?
Yeah, your hair is all, but it's still there. But it's a little grayer, but it's still there. Okay. So, and then what happened? As soon as the aircraft carrier strike force got to the region, lo and behold, the negotiations ended and the war and the assault began. Now everybody's saying, he's going to talk to these guys. It's going to be terrible. Going to have a deal. First of all, we now have 2,500 Marines on their way there. They're not going there for a picnic. There are 2,500 Marines, the fiercest fighting force on the planet, the most lethal group of human beings on the planet, are on their way to the Middle East. They're not going there for a picnic. My guess is they're going there to take Karg Island, because Karg Island is where 90% of the Iranian oil comes from, and which is basically their entire economy. And if you can shut down Karg Island and they can't export their oil, the economy completely falls apart, and you can shut down their energy source. And of course, now we need the United Arab Emirates to step up and completely cut off. They're their bankers for the Iranians. They need to completely cut off the Iranian assets. So they're starting to do that. So when Trump says, I'm negotiating with a guy, but I can't tell you who, so I'm afraid he's going to get killed, the Iranians have no idea who's talking to whom, because they've been so dissociated from one another. There's no cohesion in the government. So he says he's talking to someone. We know it's not the new Ayatollah, Mujtaba Khamenei.
Because he may not be talking to anybody.
Be alive.
He may be talking to somebody else.
The guy's a hologram. So he's gay, he's impotent, he's a hologram. Who knows where the guy is?
All of the above.
All the above. So no one's talking to him, because he just may be talking to Allah. I have no idea. So the other two possibilities, the head of the Iranian parliament, the speaker of the parliament, Mohammad Baghar Ghalibaf, because the theory is he's talking to Ghalibaf because Ghalibaf, everybody knows, is corrupt, and for a price he'll do whatever you want to do, but he has bona fides with the IRGC, the Islamic Republican Guard, its most radical group, and they're the ones who sponsor all the state terrorism around the world. So is he talking to him, or is he talking to Mohammad Baghar Zalgadi, who's the current head of the IRGC? Nobody knows, and I don't even think the Iranians know. So when the Iranians say he's not talking to anyone, Maybe they're just not aware of it. Maybe he is. But the beauty of it is he has got everybody guessing and talking. And Trump put forward a 14-point plan, 15-point plan. Sorry, 15-point plan of what the Ayatollahs have to do, the mullahs have to do in order to stop the war. And basically, he understands each one of them is nothing they will ever agree to. They won't agree to any single one of them. They won't dismantle their existing nuclear capabilities. They won't stop enriching uranium. They won't stop their ballistic missiles. They won't stop funding their terrorist network in the region and around the world. He knows they will not do any of these things. So he just puts it out there. He's having negotiations. So everybody who's all upset that we're going to have peace, quote unquote, there's no peace, because he knows the Iranians are not going to accept it. So the American bottom line, which is the correct bottom line, and the Iranian bottom line, which is somewhere between the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, there's no way there's going to be a deal. But in the meantime, we're on our way there. But I want to make this one final point. To the individuals who think that there can be a deal with the Iranians, that they can be contained, I just want to point out to you that they launched a ballistic missile that reached Diego Garcia. That's the island in the Indian Ocean that the United States uses. It's a British territory, but the U.S. has a huge base there that we use. That's 2,500 miles away. The Iranians had been promising that their ballistic missiles, swearing up and down, that their ballistic missiles were very short range. Maybe
they're being used only for mostly peaceful purposes.
Yeah, or just they could maybe reach Jerusalem. That's about it. But lo and behold, their ballistic missiles can reach London. All of Europe is within this sphere of the Iranian ballistic missile program. These guys are pathological liars.
And it's part of their culture.
Whether it's part of their culture or not, they are pathological liars. We know they lie and cheat on their on the nuclear program. They lie and cheat on the ballistic missile program. You can't trust a word they say. And the domino benefit of taking out this Iranian regime, which must go, is that's the end of Hamas in Gaza, and that's the end of Hezbollah in Lebanon, because this is where the funding comes from. These are the guys that are responsible for October 7th. It was an attack by Iran on Israel using Hamas as the weapon of choice for that day. But it makes the Israelis and the American effort in Gaza that much simpler. Hezbollah, just yesterday, the Lebanese government kicked the Iranian ambassador out of Beirut. They kicked him out of Lebanon. What does that tell you? These aren't people with courage and spines. These are people that say, lick their fingers, stick it in the air and say, which way is the wind blowing? And they see which way the wind is blowing. 2 weeks ago, they never would have kicked the Iranian ambassador out. But now they see who's winning the war. And everybody understands who's winning the war with the exception of Democrats and the media. And they are an utter disgrace. You want to criticize the war? You want to come up with better reasons why we maybe shouldn't have gone to war? Have at it. Free society. But God damn it, stop rooting for America to lose. And that's what you're doing, and you're giving succor to the enemy.
Very well said. We're going to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to listen to what Chairman Garcia has to say on this issue. This is Let the Record Show. Please stay with us. We'll be back in about a few moments with more important and interesting conversation.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
Whether it's a movie night or just midday, Skinny Pop is a salty snack that keeps on giving. Made with just 3 simple ingredients for an irresistibly delicious taste and a large serving size that lasts. Deliciously popped, perfectly salted. Skinny Pop, popular for a reason. Shop Skinny Pop now.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg, Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia, and essayist and commentator Eric Levine on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We're back on Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. Jesse is the Vice Chair of the New York State Republican Party and the County Chair of the Suffolk County Party. With us is Eric Levine, noted attorney, commentator, and essayist, and I am Judge Richard Weinberg. Mr. Chairman, your turn to comment on what's going on with the Iran war and other relevant topics.
Well, both of you esteemed gentlemen have articulated everything that has been said on this show for many months, if not years. But I want to just go back to one of the things that began. This is a war that's been going on for 47 years. We all three agree with that. Anybody with any common sense listening to this show will agree that
only people with common sense listen to this show.
That's true.
Okay.
Except those in the mainstream media and Democrats who simply want to see us lose for the sake of America losing and Donald Trump to be unsuccessful. How in a time of war, in a time of crisis, any American can wish for us to be not successful in this endeavor means that they don't want it. So they don't want America to be successful in this endeavor because of their Trump derangement syndrome. But I think what I would like to add is that what we're seeing here is a prosecution of a war that needed to be done. And I'm going to take a line that Donald Trump, our president, said when he first took office, and when there was a dramatic drawdown in the flow of illegal aliens through the United States borders, on a northern border, but predominantly on a southern border. He stated, unlike what the Democrats said in the 4 years before that, and Biden said, you didn't need new laws, you needed a new president. For this war to be prosecuted, for Americans to be secure, whether they be abroad or here in our homeland, what we needed was a new president who did not follow the same diplomatic pattern that kept us in this perpetual war for 47 years, that led to the attacks in Beirut, that led to the unchecked attacks on our servicemen in the Middle East, that allowed Hamas to attack us and let sleeper cells to come in and assist us here in our own homeland with terrorist attacks. We needed a new president, with a president that said the old plan doesn't work. The old plan was one of appeasement. That plan that allowed by Biden and Obama to fund attacks on American interests and the American people now comes to a halt. And I agree with you, and I agree with both of you, gentlemen, when you say what we're hearing the president say and what he says to the press. It's two ways. Number one, he's not clearly going to lay out, as he has said over and over again, his plan against Iran and the regime. But he's also sending messages to those whomever are in power or holding on to stretching to whatever fringes of power they have in Iran, that their day is coming, that their day of this regime is coming to an end. And here's where I think everyone should trust what we are doing as America in that area. Number one, we have set and put forward all our chess pieces and continue to add chess pieces to the region. So we have an overwhelming force. We are working cooperatively and in collaboration with our friend Israel in that area. And as both of you pointed out, you have seen Arab countries turn their back, expel Iranian diplomats from their areas. They are picking sides right now. And the sides they're picking on is the American-Israeli side. Why? Because for the longest time, for 47 years, the bully of the Middle East that went unchecked, that was allowed to run rampant and sow terrorism in that region and in other countries, has finally been met face to face, and in many cases obliterated. Let's go back to Sharia law. We have heard this for many times. I think Eric touched upon it. There are now politicians who advocate for Sharia law taking over Western societies or European societies and laws in their countries. I believe it's being discussed in one capital, and one of them was in London. We even hear that here in Michigan and in different communities, that we need to replace our, Judeo-Christian laws and the laws of the United States with Sharia law.
This is suicide, Jesse. This is suicide by migration.
Absolutely. And that's another reason why we had to close our borders and such. Now, let me just take this a little bit more, because you guys, there's nothing more I could truly add to the presentations you did in the first segment on the Iranian war. But the other important is to our friends here, to our fellow Americans, our fellow New Yorkers, that we should, whether we like our president or not, we should support his efforts, because if he is successful, America is successful. That makes us safer, more secure, and hopefully, and in the end, economically viable and affordable in our communities, because a lot of the cost of energy will come down, because we won't be held hostage by a bully like Iran. What was going on now is that we know Iran was making inroads with Venezuela, with Cuba. They were in the Western Hemisphere. That's why the actions taken by President Trump in Venezuela and other areas was sending a message to Russia, to China, to Israel, and to Iran. You're getting out of our hemisphere. We're going back to the Monroe Doctrine. We may call it the Don Road Doctrine now, but that was the effort to, again, secure this homeland. There is no other way. America is successful when this war is persecuted to its end. That regime is gone, and we're doing it in that way, in a very successful way. I know there are Americans, New Yorkers, my neighbors, our neighbors, that are concerned about costs, concerned about this being one of those wars that there is no clear objective in the horizon. But there is. We are only about, I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks into this war. We have done what needs to be done in terms of making sure that militarily they cannot assail our allies as much as they used to be. The military apparatus has been addressed in Iran. They're still taking actions, and we still have concerns economically and from a national security point of view with the Strait of Hormuz. That's why I do agree. And listen, the three of us, over the years, we have been great fans of NATO. We have advocated for NATO, advocated for our European partners, especially over the last 4 years of the Russian-Ukrainian war. But I think the president, I know the president's right. He called out NATO. He called out NATO and gave him a test. And I think that we need to also now look at what NATO is going to be there for us, because they certainly did not come running to us, to our support, to their own personal economic and national security support by protecting and opening up the Strait of Hormuz immediately. They should never have had to think about that. Well, what they did was delay. I think that one of those issues we have to do is that we have to discuss where the role of NATO is. Do I think we should get out of it? No. But I think the president has been good identifying that there is not a two-way street with NATO, with their contributions to defense finally going up at his urging, and the fact that when we called for their support, where were they? Yet the United States needs to run right to the front whenever they call for assistance.
No, but
listen, when it comes to our Western Hemisphere, we need to protect that area, and I truly support what the president's been doing there.
No, but it's interesting, Jesse. You make a very good point about NATO, but you should recall that after we were attacked on 9/11, NATO did rally around. We invoked Article 5 of NATO, and they fought with us in Afghanistan. And
this is a different country. This is a different world.
No, I understand. That's exactly right. That was in 2001. What has happened in the last 25 years? It's been this mass migration, this mass immigration of Muslims into Europe. And that's the big change. You have a huge Muslim population in England. The leading first name in London last year for babies was Muhammad. Not Alex or Bob or Charles, Muhammad. You have over 10% of the population in France is Muslim. Less than 1% is Jewish. So that this impacts how these countries react when there are fights in the Middle East, when there are wars in the Middle East, their view of Israel, their view of the Palestinians, their view of fighting Iran. So it makes a big difference. These things, you can't view these things in isolation. One part of the world impacts another part of the world. And this is part of what the Iranians have been counting on. And it's worked to great effect. And what they've typically counted on is eventually the West just gives up. If we just keep saying no, if we just keep pressing ahead, the West will give up. They didn't count on Donald Trump.
Well, I'm very hopeful that Trump will do the right thing. What I'm concerned about.
Well, let me just say this. I keep hearing that from people. I hope Trump does the right thing. No, let's give the guy the benefit of the doubt.
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Vis-a-vis Iran, look. He's been right every time.
Look, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I support him. I'm for regime change. There are, I don't know, 50,000 people that we know about. The number could be staggeringly higher of the Islamist regime, the mullahs killing their own people.
That's not genocide, though.
Of course not, because they say it's not. So it's all, and as you wrote in an article, it's all Orwellian. Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, I'm concerned about that. They cannot stay in place. So when I say I want him to do the right thing, as far as I'm concerned, is regime change. The mullahs can have no power at all. It's not enough. It's not enough to say you've taken down a large portion of their military capacity at this time, because I believe they'll come back at you. And I also believe they'll suppress the people. I think we have a moral obligation as well as a strong strategic need to make sure that the government that takes over the running of Iran is more of a centrist, common sense, reasonable source. It can never be the mullahs. It can never be the Republican Guard types. It can never be the extremists. Because if they survive and they're still in power, then you have a real problem. And with respect to the issue that Jesse was talking about in our Western Hemisphere, okay, so we got rid of Maduro, but you have Rodriguez in place. And you're playing games with her and you're using her for the time being. But ultimately, I want to see her out too, because that regime is still in place there.
But what's interesting is with Venezuela, I agree with you. I'd like to see that regime go. But Donald Trump and the United States government has a great input into how much oil is being sold and where it's being sold. And that has great impact on China. Same thing with Iran. So about 80% of the Iranian oil, 90% of Iranian oil that's sold, it's sanctioned, but it's sold to China at huge discounts. So if the United States, if Iran switches sides and becomes pro-Western, Venezuela, I don't know if become pro-Western, but at least is somewhat neutered or neutralized. The United States has a tremendous influence and impact onto how much energy China can import. And that really, we've always been talking about, we got to pivot to China, we got to pay attention to China. The greatest way to pay attention to China is to undermine or control its ability to import energy.
Exactly right. Because, look, we need China because we don't have sufficient rare earths. That's very essential. So we can use the leverage of our oil control against their rare earth, and then you have a stalemate, and you can work out a working relationship. But you always have to be wary about Chinese ambitions with respect to Taiwan, because Taiwan is the center of the chip manufacturing, and I don't know how close the United States is to being chip independent.
Well, it's also critical to the shipping lanes in the China Sea, because something like 70%, 65% of the world's merchant shipping goes through those shipping lanes, and you can't have China in charge of that.
That's exactly right. So this is a very complicated game. I think the regime has to be changed there. I think, Jesse, based on your expertise, knowing so much about that country, I believe that regime is going to be gone. How soon it's going to be gone, I don't know. But I think that's on the short screen. I think that's going to happen fairly quickly. What do you think, Jesse?
I think it is. I think that what we're seeing is that the pressure is being placed on that regime right now in Cuba. Because what I appreciate about Donald Trump and his leadership, and his Department of War and Secretary Rubio and all those in that national security team, is that he understands. There's an understanding that the United States is not fighting one foe. It's fighting on multiple foes. And he's exercising strategically pressure points, whether it be in Venezuela, with Cuba now, with in the Middle East against Iran. It's executing these pressure points of those opponents and those enemies of America that we are prepared, that the United States is prepared to defend itself and to protect itself from those regimes. Right now, there's a lot of the economy in Cuba is in as much as a disarray, if not worse, than that of Iran. Their economy is under fire. There is not enough power to feel to truly. There's rolling blackouts in Cuba right now. The people there are beginning to do the same, to rise up as they did in Iran about a year ago, and starting about a year ago. So that is going to be the impetus for us to be able to place that pressure on Cuba. And I think that's going to be the next domino that's going to fall. And truly, once that with Venezuela gone and returning back to Venezuela that was like 30, 40 years ago, which was a prosperous country, and then Cuba following that and falling again.
So the next one up is, I guess, would be Nicaragua.
Exactly. But first, I think these two were the ones that presented a clear and present danger strategically to the United States. And I think it's wise the way we are prosecuting these efforts to remove these regimes. Well
said. Well, this is Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party, noted attorney, commentator, essayist Eric Levine. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. We'll be taking a break now. Please stay with us. We'll be back for our third and final segment of this week's show. Please stay tuned for more important and interesting conversation.
Looking for a protein shake that tastes as good as it performs? Meet Rockin' Protein Max. Packed with 50 grams of fuel, it'll help you keep up when your day won't slow down. And because it's always creamy and never chalky, every sip tastes great. Even better, it's lactose-free and has 0 added sugar. It's not every day you find a protein shake you actually want to finish. Catch Rockin' Protein in the dairy cooler at a store near you. Rockin' Protein and Shamrock Farms are registered trademarks of Shamrock Foods Company.
Fox News is now streaming live on Fox One. When news breaks, we don't just report it. We go beyond the headlines to get the full story. Get live coverage, in-depth analysis, and perspectives from the voices you trust, all in one place. Whether you're at home or on the go, stay connected to the stories shaping our world. Stream Fox News on Fox One. Download today.
Next up, a laughing session from The Laughing Cow. Now, unpeel a wedge of the Laughing Cow light spreadable cheese, a delicious snack with 2 grams of protein and 25 calories per wedge.
John Stamos here in partnership with Cologuard, and I've got to say, so you're 45 or older and at average risk. So what? That doesn't mean your life comes to a halt. No way. You can still do all the fun things you've been doing, but it's time to take your health a little more seriously. Colon cancer screening needs to be on your docket, and it's as simple as the Cologuard test. Don't worry. You got this.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg, Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia, and essayist and commentator Eric Levine on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We're back on Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. Jesse is the Vice Chair of the New York State Republican Party and the County Chair of the Suffolk County New York Republican Party. With us is Eric Levine, noted attorney, commentator, and essayist, and I am Judge Richard Weinberg. Switching gears, gentlemen, I want to go more to the national front here in the United States. There are a few things that concern me. Well, we can go through them. DHS still has not been funded as we doing this show today. That means you have these enormous lines at the airports, which has a lot to do with the economic viability of the country. It has a lot to do with how the midterm elections are going to come out. The Democrats seem to have made this attempt to seize a narrative by saying this is Trump's problem. If Trump would only be reasonable. I don't know what he's supposed to be reasonable about. Trump has already told them that he is willing to work with them. He's given them concessions. Every time he makes a concession, they want more. This is closed down because of the Democrats. It's Hakeem Jeffries. It's Chuck Schumer. It's a Democratic Party. The airline industry is on the cusp of real economic harm. The travel industry is on the cusp of real economic harm. The economy is there. And people, if they're not fully invested with the facts as opposed to the spin, this is the Democrats shut down, not the Trump administration shut down. 5 times Thune has led the charge in the United States Senate, the majority of the Senate, to get funding for DHS in place, which would mean the TSA agents in place, as well as the Coast Guard, as well as the Secret Service. So please, give me a break, Democrats. Do the right thing. That's one issue I want to open to you, gentlemen. The other issue that bothers me enormously is the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is just to have election integrity. You have to be a citizen to vote in a federal election. That's constitutional. It shouldn't be hard. All you're asking people to do is show that they're citizens. It's not a big deal. You don't have to have a driver's license. You can get it from a governmental agency as cards verifying your citizenship. But you can't have same-day registration. You can't have mail-in voting without having election integrity backed by citizenship. That's a very big deal, because otherwise you have illegal migrants voting for their interests, but not necessarily the interests of the American people. In fact, likely not the interests of the American people. Then the last thing I want to talk about in this segment is Mamdani, the mayor of New York City. I respectfully submit that Mamdani is even worse than we thought and we worried about. He's an Islamist. He continues to be an Islamist. He supports from the river to the sea, which is a code word for genocide of the state of Israel and the Jewish people there, and indeed the Arab people there, because they would be exterminated as well. The Islamists...
No. He's just focusing on the Jews.
Oh, okay.
Come on. He's just talking about the Jews.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, I hope we never come to that day of Armageddon.
No, it's never coming. It's never coming, but that's what he's talking about.
All right. But certainly he's talking about socialism out of time. That's worked out nowhere, anywhere, through any place in time. And that's what he's been pushing. And he's just hiring, in the process now, with a multi-million-dollar budget, Jesse and Eric, a bunch of community organizers with fancy titles, a board of community engagement. What nonsense is that? All that is a political operation operating out of City Hall to recruit, control narrative, to organize, to politicize this city for a radical left agenda. So that's what's on my mind about this character, Mamdani. So, Eric, let's begin with you. The DHS, SAVE Act, and then Mamdani.
Well, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, let's put this in perspective. We are at war with the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. And we know they've spread there, as we've discussed before, they've spread terrorism and killed people all around the globe. Department of Homeland Security helps keep us safe. And yet the Democrats won't fund it at a time of war. How irresponsible is that? As it relates to the TSA, well, first of all, they won't vote to fund it, they claim, because they don't want to fund ICE. Hello? ICE is funded through 2029. No matter what you do, ICE is already funded under the big, beautiful bill through 2029. So this doesn't impact ICE at all. But even to the extent that they wanted to impact ICE, Trump, to his credit, has made a number of concessions. He fired Kristi Noem. He brought in Holman. He's now in charge of ICE. He's making all kinds of concessions regarding warrants and setting up detention centers. All the things that the Democrats have been asking for, he has now given them in large part. And they still can't bring themselves to saying yes because they're not interested in saying yes. They just want to shut this down because they think it helps them politically with their radical, crazy base. Because they're fighting. Because they hate Donald Trump more than they love America. And they just want to keep their base happy. On the TSA, you just look at these lines. This is unbelievable. Some people are waiting 4.5 hours just to get through security. I think at this point, the airline industry must be privatized. A number of airports have private TSA. The airlines run. The airlines have to do it. We can't have the whims of Congress shutting down the airlines and making the American people's lives absolutely miserable. On the SAVE Act, I support the SAVE Act. I do, though, have a lot of sympathy for some states like Hawaii or Alaska, or where this idea about no absentee ballots. Some people, Alaska's a perfect example. You can live in a really remote area, and if you have to show up to vote, you may have to travel hundreds of miles. So
Alaska is really the exception to the rule.
So I understand why there's some Lisa Murkowski, who I don't know, I frequently disagree with. On this one, I have a lot of sympathy for. Her constituents need to be able to show up and vote. But other than that, certainly on the issue of photo ID, it is crazy not to require photo ID. I had a personal experience. A couple of years ago when Lee Zeldin was running for governor, I showed up to vote early. So I went to, you don't go to your normal polling place. So I show up to vote. And I signed the book, and there's a woman sitting there, and she says to me, your signature doesn't match up with your other signature. I said, yeah, but that other signature is 25 years old. Your signature changes. So she says to me, but I don't know that it's you. So I said, well, I'll show you my driver's license. It's one of the enhanced federal driver's licenses. I'll show it to you, prove I live where I live and I am who I am. She said, I'm sorry, I can't take your driver's license. I can't take your ID. So not only was I not required to show a photo ID to prove who I was to vote, I was denied the right to show a photo ID just to be able to show up.
So what happened?
Yeah. So there was another fellow sitting next to her. There was a black woman, African-American woman, who was telling me I couldn't vote, and there was an Hispanic guy sitting, and I know the name. I know it's Hispanic because I saw the name. And he said, come on, let's be real. Let's let him vote. So I voted. So I was enfranchised. So I was actually, even though I had the ability to prove who I was being told I couldn't. This is the insanity of the left on the voting issue. You need to show a photo ID in order to vote. You want to get on a plane, you need a photo ID. You want your driver's license, you need a photo ID.
Library card?
Library card, photo ID. You want to shovel snow in New York City? Photo ID.
Buy a drink?
Yeah,
Buy a drink?
It's just unbelievable. But I do believe that the filibuster is critically important. It may be short-term gain if you get rid of the filibuster to pass the SAVE Act, but I believe in the medium and short term it comes back and bites you in the tuchus. I think the filibuster is important. The Senate should have some institutional backbone here. I think John Thune is doing the right thing by insisting on the keeping the filibuster. So we'll see how this all plays out. But 100%, Richard, you're 100% right. This is on the Chuck Schumer and the Democrats because they are scared witless of the radical progressive left. On Zoran Mamdani, look, the guy is an anti-American communist Jew hater. What could go wrong? He is an utter disgrace. It is unbelievable. It remains unbelievable to me this guy was ever elected. He's a horror show, as grotesque as he is. His wife is even more disgusting than he is. She's a particular Jew hater. She endorses the raping of Jewish women. She endorses the putting Jewish babies in ovens. She endorses ripping open the wombs of pregnant Jewish women and killing their babies in front of a screaming baby. She endorses burning families and Jewish families. She endorses the extermination of the Jews. And the two of them endorse destroying the Jewish state of Israel.
Other than that, they're just swell.
How can you not love this guy? How can you not just want him as a neighbor, right? So, of course, he's going to adopt policies that I'm not going to support. But people should look at his history and what he truly believes. You know, he wanted to start the Students for Justice. Not wanted to. He did start the chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine at Bowdoin College, and the DSA. They adopt positions that don't just say that Israel as a Jewish state has no right to exist. They claim that the United States has no right to exist. They claim that is between Canada and the United States. They're the turtle nation. If you look at a map, supposedly Canada next to the United States is the shape of a turtle. And that they are two occupying powers, occupying countries on Native American land, and they have no right to exist. This is the guy that is leading the most important city in the most important country on the planet. Look, he says he wants to govern. He has a new approach to governing. Who are you kidding? All he wants to do is to bring, Richard, as you pointed out, socialism, communism to New York. It's failed everywhere, every time. Colossal disasters in the 20th century, and there's nothing new about it. He just has this demonic smile. He just says this stuff, and what could go wrong?
He's a charm boy.
Yeah, well, somehow I haven't fallen to his charm. But it is remarkable to me that this guy is the mayor of the city of New York, and we got a long way to go. I really think it's a terrible mistake for people to continually try to engage with this guy, to try and persuade him. He's unpersuadable. He's evil, and I mean in the Stalin sense evil. That if he had the power to do some of these horrible things, he would do them because he advocates for them. And the only way that New York succeeds is if he fails. So I think as New Yorkers, we all need to work really, really hard to make sure that he fails. Because otherwise, our taxes are going through the roof. It's going to be an unlivable place for Jews. It's going to be, our tax base is going to completely pick up and leave. And no matter how much Kathy Hochul begs people in Florida, who she told to get out of New York, to come back to pay for her insane
fat chance
and the New York
fat
sane
chance
social programs, this is going to fail. And the only way New York succeeds is if Mamdani fails.
Jesse, your turn.
What I wanted to just speak about DHS funding is very clear, is that this is Chuck Schumer's shutdown, and it is going to be a pox on his party and his House. Despite the fact that the mainstream media and every lefty organization out there wants to blame the Republicans and Donald Trump, our president, for this, it's very clear it's their actions. And we pointed out, ICE is fully funded, I believe, through 2028. So their fight about ICE is not the issue here. These individuals want to, it's very similar to 2020 when they were inflaming discord, in this country. They were standing with the Black Lives Matters. They were standing with Antifa to create crises in our cities, to create riots. This is the Democrats' same form of doing that by disrupting the lives of average Americans here. Who you're disrupting are those TSA agents who are forced to go without paychecks, almost $1 billion without paychecks, and to do a job. What I also enjoy, and I'll just anecdotally, my son, who's graduating from the Citadel this year,
God bless him.
He had to travel from Charlotte to Baltimore for a cybersecurity competition. Shout out to Jay Alex and his team. They won second place in that competition. But in Baltimore, which is a major airport, the lines were not long. Charlotte, we expected the lines not to be long. But I want to speak to is about Philadelphia. There is Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor saying that the deployment of ICE to our airports was going to add even more stress, more lines, more discomfort.
No, he said that ICE was going to kill people. He said that. He and Jeffrey said that.
And what happened? Almost at the same time, later in that report, there was a reporter from Philadelphia, probably not one of the biggest fans of Republicans, reporting that in this major airport, there were no lines. It's a major hub here in Philadelphia. And we've seen it throughout the area. So again, President Trump is actually, basically playing chess while the Democrats are playing checkers. What the Democrats are doing is they're doubling down on their very simplistic, obstructionist strategy to try and disrupt the midterm elections. We will see if that is going to have some effect. Strong organizations and strong parties and strong candidates will be able to survive that. And I hope that that's what's going to be the case nationally, because we can't go back to 2 years, to go backwards 2 years where, the Democrats are going to spend the next, 48 months, prosecuting and impeaching the president over and over again because they don't like him. And when it comes to so that's DHS, especially in TSA together. When it comes to the SAVE Act, that is common sense. It is supported by almost 80% of the people of America when it's polled. Obviously it's even supported by 73% of registered Democrats who are polled. No one sees a problem with the SAVE Act and showing photo ID and ensuring that you're a citizen to vote in our country, despite the actions of New York City and the progressives there to allow the non-citizens to vote in their city elections, which was overturned in court. As we go forward on that, I know that mail-in ballots in the way that blue states, especially like the states like New York, California, Illinois, have manipulated the mail-in ballots, and it started in 2020 during COVID, using COVID as cover, where they've done a lot of these the mail drop-off sites, unchecked mail. To use a term that two lawyers here would know, the chain of custody was broken under the rules of the Democratic state legislatures when it comes to mail-in ballots.
And the judges too. The judges too. In Pennsylvania, what they did is, under the United States Constitution, as you know, Jesse, the election laws and the procedures are governed by the state legislature.
Yes, they are.
But it was changed by the state Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, their highest court, by allowing them to count ballots that came in after the fact. And that case was the Republicans tried to take it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, to its disgrace, refused to hear the case.
We have this recent decision by the Supreme Court, though, which we're going to hear about it in June. I expect that the Supreme Court's going to clean that up, and the ruling is going to be that any ballot that is received after Election Day will not be counted. That's what I expect that result to be.
And I believe the SAFE Act, if I could, does have provisions for mail-in ballots, but the old provisions that we grew up with, where if you're going to be out of town, you're ill, you're infirmed, that at that point you can have an absentee ballot, not the mail-in ballots willy-nilly that are unchecked, unverified, that you can sign up online to receive and such. Here in the state of New York, remember, there was a constitutional amendment to allow unchecked, unfettered mail-in ballots to everybody. The constitutional amendment failed. What did the state legislature do? They started changing the rules again and try to bypass what the orders of the courts are. So that's how we have seen, and the American people get this. Let's just go back to the SAFE Act a little bit on polling. Now, listen, since the Democrats love to do identity politics, you know, you're an African-American, you're Hispanic, you're LGBTQ, it's amazing. Every major ethnic group is in support of photo ID and being a citizen to vote here in America. It's between 68 and 73% of the vote, depending on the group. So this is one of those 90-10 issues that the Democrats are fighting, because really what they're fighting is their existence. If photo ID comes forward and the verification of citizens has to come forward, that means the game plan that goes on in some of these county boards of elections, like in the city of New York or in other states where they don't have the same protections that we have here in New York with the boards of elections, where Republicans look over the shoulders of Democrats and Democrats look over the shoulders of Republicans to verify that, because they both have to agree before anything moves forward. That's going to cost them at the ballot box. Why? Because their policies, plain and simple, suck. They're bad for the American people. They're bad for New Yorkers. They're bad for affordability. They're bad for security and safety. And the only way Democrats can do this is by constantly, and we've seen this by the Albany Democrats led by Hochul, is by changing the rules of the game every time they suffer losses at the ballot box.
I think that's very well said. Well, we have to sign off, gentlemen. Another great show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party, noted attorney, commentator, essayist Eric Levine. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. We want to thank you for listening. As always, God bless you, God bless your families, God bless America. And as you prepare for the holidays, whether it's Passover or Easter, we wish everyone well. And we look forward to being with you again on next week's show. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to Let the Record Show with Judge Weinberg, Chairman Jesse Garcia, and Eric Levine. You can hear Let the Record Show Sunday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?